This is Robert Harper with Virginia Farm Bureau's Grain Division. Glad to bring you the Merchandiser Minute for Friday, January 31st, 2020. And let's take a look at how the futures closed out the week in Chicago. March corn was down 3 cents for the week to close at $3.81. March soybeans down 18 cents a bushel for the week to close at $8.72. March wheat contract in Chicago traded down 14 cents for the week to close at $5.53. And being that it's the last day of the month, if we take just a little look back, March corn was down 6 cents for the month. March soybeans were down 84 cents a bushel for the month, and March wheat was down 6 cents a bushel for the month. Let's talk about some numbers we got from the USDA. Keep these in your mind. Our export loadings report came in as expected for bushels that were loaded for corn and for soybeans. Our top corn destination this week was Mexico. Top soybean destination was China. We did have a lower than expected loadings this week reported for wheat, with the top destination being Japan. When we switch gears to the sales report that we got yesterday, Thursday, we had a really big corn purchase from an unknown. So we were way above expectations on corn export sales, and it's a shame that it didn't do more for your futures price. Soybeans came in as expected in the sales category for the week, with China being the top purchaser. And wheat also came in above expectations for the week, with Japan being our top wheat customer. Remember, backing up to corn, we've been kind of out of the money, is one way to say it, in corn sales for the last few months, but we're coming into a time now where cyclically we typically get a lot of the world's corn business, and we really need some big demand news in corn to be able to meet the USDA's projected export numbers for this marketing year, and that meeting that number would also keep our carryout bushels lower. Remember, one of the things going forward next week, Monday is February, and we're going to be starting to work on our projected crop insurance price. So remember, it'll be the average of December 2020 corn futures and the average of January 2021 soybean futures. So we'll keep our eye on that for the whole month of February. And we do get another crop report from the USDA, our February crop report, on the 11th, so about 2 weeks out. We did just get the Commitment of Traders report, effective of last Tuesday, today's report. We've got a short position on the managed money speculator on the corn board. We also have a growing short position by the managed money speculator for soybeans. And we're seeing some price optimism. The wheat speculator in Chicago is net long wheat. So again, they're telling you they think the price is going to go higher before it goes lower. Lots of news this week that affected your price. 10 days ago, I didn't even know what the coronavirus was, for what that's worth. And it was really a remarkable week to see the world get taken aback, really with a lot of fear over that virus. We saw financial and commodity markets around the world sell off. We know futures prices rally on optimism, but they sell off on frustration. And it's just a lot of questions about this virus in China, certainly the people who are dealing with it, the communities who are dealing with it, and how it's going to slow down the Chinese economy. And a good reminder this week that really for the last 2 years, China, boy, I talk a lot about China. We all do. They just dominate the news cycle. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. Part of the coronavirus, we had limit down moves on Monday in lean hogs, feeder cattle, and in live cattle. It's been a long time since all three of those went limit down on the same day. And we saw our corn, wheat, and soybean futures contracts gap lower on the open Sunday night. We never like that when the board opens on Sunday night lower than it closed on Friday, and all that was selling pressure from fear on this coronavirus. We also saw this week China made a significant purchase of Australian feed wheat, and that kind of threw ice water on hopes of a futures rally for corn. They might not buy as much corn from us if they're buying a lot of feed wheat from Australia. We saw Sonny Perdue traveling this week in the European Union, talking about trade. And speaking of the European Union, remember tonight, I think I got that right, tonight at midnight, the United Kingdom separates itself officially from the European Union. It's a year grace period on some trade issues. It's a couple-year grace period going forward on some, status issues for European citizens who live in the United Kingdom. But watch that going forward, because we feel like that President Trump and his trade team now are going to really seek out bilateral trade deals in a bigger way with the UK and with the European Union. We had lots of eyes this week on Malaysian palm oil futures. Man, we saw those futures go down to a 12-year low, and they recovered much of that loss later in the week. Remember, we talk often about how soybean meal and soybean oil futures affect soybean futures, but keep your eye on Malaysian palm oil also, top competitor for soy oil around the world. All eyes were on Washington for much of the week. For the impeachment hearings, keep your eye on that. We don't really have any way to measure how that impacts the global speculator in worldwide equity markets as well as commodity. Remember, Monday, February the 3rd, what do we got going on in Iowa? We got a caucus there for president on the Democratic side. Keep your eye on that. We did see some rough numbers this week. The combines are going in central Brazil. I don't know if these numbers are exactly right. Somewhere maybe between 6 to 8% harvested was the last numbers that I could find. But boy, we've seen a lot of pictures on Twitter of corn planters following those combines in the central part of Brazil. And one of the biggest pieces of news this week is the U.S. government and several academic officials announced this week that they have developed a vaccine that in laboratory situations is proving to be 100% effective on African swine fever. Wow. This disease has been around for 100 years. It was first found in Africa. There's been a lot of work done on this vaccine for really the last, by my research, the last 7 years. So keep your eye on that. They're very hopeful that this will work for this disease, and in the future they'll be able to roll it out commercially. We also saw this week at the White House the president signed the USMCA, United States-Mexico-Canada agreement, into law. We can put that behind us. It's a big deal for agriculture, especially the dairy industry. And we had a federal open market committee meeting this week. They didn't raise interest rates. That's important for these commodity markets, to keep your eye on that. Next week, South American weather. Remember, weather right now down there, it's a big area. Obviously, it's neutral or benign to your futures price. That can change. And we want some optimism, obviously, to come back into these markets. The term market conditions keeps sticking out to a lot of people in the 94-page trade agreement that we have between us and China. Market conditions, a lot of people are skeptical that maybe if our corn isn't the quality that China wants, that'll be an excuse, or there'll be some excuse for them not to fulfill their commitments this year of buying about $40 billion in ag products. Remember, Phase 1 deal goes into effect on February 14th. Give us a call, please. We'd love to talk to you if we can help you. This is Robert and Virginia Farm Bureau's Grain Division.